Now, fried cornbread is about as old as time, and we did do a video years ago with the traditional hoe cake recipe, which is very, very basic. But what we're doing today is something that's a little more modern, still a few hundred years old at the newest, but it's got a little more flavor than just a traditional hoe cake. Lots of folks don't care for that very raw cornmeal flavor. So this kind of is a little better than that, a little lighter than that, and it makes an excellent quick bread for any meal. In fact, you can even eat leftovers for breakfast if you want to, with a little jam and butter. I mean, that's something that folks did when I was growing up, and even way before that. But the ingredients, what I'm using is a cup of self-rising cornmeal mix. Now, cornmeal mix is a combination of cornmeal, flour, and leavening, and it has baking powder and salt already in it. Now, you can buy all those ingredients separate, but that's a lot of work putting it together, and it's a lot of expense. The cornmeal mix is a much less expensive way to make this than buying all those individual ingredients. Now, I'm not talking about like the cornmeal in a bag that you just add water to, the cornbread muffin mixes. This is just cornmeal, flour, and leavening. That's all it is. And you can get it in a 5-pound bag or a 2-pound bag, just like you do flour and regular cornmeal. And it's just those basic ingredients combined, and then you put the rest of your favorite cornbread recipe in it. And if you have a favorite cornbread recipe, you can certainly cook it the way we're going to be cooking it today. And you need some fat. I'm using about 2 tablespoons of butter, and you want about 2 tablespoons per cup of whatever kind of cornmeal mix, or if you're using straight up cornmeal, you can use straight up cornmeal in this recipe. And I'm going to heat my butter in my skillet just like I would do if I was baking it. And I'm going to add my hot butter to my mix once I mix it up. And I do have my pan already on over here warming up, because you want to cook these in a warm pan. I've got about 1/3 cup of milk and 1 egg. Now that's kind of all you need to make this. But with this 1 egg, if you have to feed a lot of people, you can double your flour or your cornmeal mix and your milk and still just use 1 egg, because I know eggs are getting expensive. But I'm not feeding a crowd today, and I don't want to have a ton of this left over. The thing about quick breads and any homemade bread is that they don't have preservatives. Now, you could make a bigger batch, certainly, and freeze part of them, even keep them in the refrigerator for, probably at least 7 to 10 days. And they would be fine. But if you're making quick breads, it's better to make them fresh. And I have today a little chopped onion. This is a sweet onion. It's a Vidalia onion. You could use any onion in it. You don't have to have onion in it. You could also add about 1 tablespoon of sugar or honey if you like sweet cornbread. Just, kind of flavor this the way that you like your cornbread. My mama, she put onion in everything she made, and she used to love cornbread with onion in it. So I decided to put a little onion in this fried stuff, because it really does add a lot of flavor, and it adds a lot to the meal. It's not just plain cornbread. It's, something a little special. I'm going to start by beating my egg up a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and add my milk to my egg so that I've got my wet ingredients combined. And with this cornmeal mix, all my dry ingredients are already combined. Now, if you were starting with flour and cornmeal and baking powder and salt, you would want to mix that together. And I'm going to go ahead and add that into my wet ingredients and mix that up just a tiny bit. If you're on a really tight budget too, you can use water in this. And if you've got leftover bacon grease, you can certainly use leftover bacon grease in this instead of the butter. This is an excellent recipe for your leftover bacon grease. And my mixture's a little bit dry, but I've still got my 2 tablespoons of butter that I'm going to add into it. And I'm going to go ahead and dump my onions in here. This was a really small onion, but I'm kind of making a small batch, so I'm not going to quite use all of them. Probably per per cup of cornmeal mix, you would want maybe a 1/4 cup of onions. Of course, you can put as many in as you want to. It's up to you, just however you want to do it. And I did chop them up kind of fine because I want my onions cooked. If you want a little more crispness in the onions when you eat your fried cornbread, you can chop them bigger and they won't get quite as done and they'll be a little more crisp. My mama, she liked hot onions in hers, and she liked them in bigger chunks because she liked to taste that little bit of hot onion. Okay, my butter's kind of brown now, and browning your butter a little bit is going to add a lot of flavor to your cornbread, but heating it is going to just make your cornbread better. And I'm just going to pour that in there and kind of get most of it, leave a little bit of it in the pan, and that's what we'll cook this in. And I'm going to mix that in here, make sure it all gets mixed in there real good. What heating the butter or the bacon grease, or you could use shortening or lard or some kind of oil even if you wanted something healthier. But what heating that does is that it activates the baking powder that's in here, and it just makes it all better. Now you can see this is pretty thick. You could make it a little thinner if you wanted to, but pretty thick is good for these because you kind of, I don't know, scoop them in the pan, I guess. But like I said, you could make it a little thinner, and you just start scooping them out and adding them to the pan. And you can kind of shape these. You can make them round. Of course, if your batter's a little thinner, they'll pour out and they'll be round. But we're just going to cook them a few minutes on each side until they brown. Flatten them out a little bit there, because if you don't flatten them out, they won't get done in the middle, and nobody likes half raw cornbread. I know, especially in